tonight. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval County. We're going to break down some fantasy values. We'll do a little prop stop and a team lean on the over or under 7.5 wins, tied to Shah Khan's franchise. Shah Khan, proud graduate of where? The ILL, right here in my backyard in the corn, soybeans, and swine of Central Illinois. All right, let's get to the favorite fantasy values. Here's how this discussion is going to work, PJ. I'm going to throw out a player. I'm going to throw out that player's current ADP, and then I'm going to ask you, is he overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued at that price? We'll have a conversation, and we'll move on. So let's start at the quarterback position with Trevor Lawrence. The guy's been a bit of a disappointment. You know, all the hype coming out of Clemson, people saying, oh, he's going to be a generational quarterback. He's just been kind of rather vanilla overall. It was bent by the injury amp a little bit last year. This season, quarterback 18 early fantasy drafts, 141.58 overall is where he's going. So really kind of a firm quarterback 2 for those of you in QB, 2 QB formats or Superflex format where you basically got to play 2 quarterbacks. He'll have some value, but in single quarterback leagues, he's largely going to be bench fodder, or somebody's going to be sipping pina coladas in the free agent pool, especially in like 10-team and shallower formats. But I ask you the question, Trevor Lawrence at QB 18, is he overvalued? Is he undervalued? Or is he properly valued, PJ?
I think he's properly valued, Brad. I think Trevor Lawrence is like middle of the pack quarterback in the NFL, but I'd more put him towards like the bottom half, right? Like the top part of the bottom half of the league, which is about 18, 32 teams in the league. So he's like 18. I think that's about right. We've seen some great moments from Trevor in his NFL career, even though it was a short stretch. We've seen him have some great moments. We've seen him have a lot of bad moments, mostly a lot of bad moments. But, you know, the talent is there. He has shown us flashes, but now can he sustain it? And they went out and the front office made a statement, Brad, and they said, all right, no more Doug Peterson. We're going out and we're getting you Liam Cohn, who had success with Baker Mayfield in Tampa. We have a budding superstar in Brian Thomas Jr., who's a number 1 receiver. Now let's go out and get you a generational prospect in terms of just like, I mean, a two-way player, right? We haven't seen this with Travis Hunter in a long time, and he just doesn't come around very often. So they went out, and they clearly are trying to do everything that they can to make Trevor successful. Because, Brad, you think about the Jags over the last 5-6 years, right? And the only time that they made the playoffs was when they went on that stretch, the final 7-8 games of the season, where Trevor played his best ball of his career. They went on that win streak, and then they got into the postseason, and then we remember that crazy comeback they had on the Chargers to win that playoff game. But Trevor's the key, right? As most quarterbacks are to most team success in the league, it's no different with Jacksonville. That's why they went out and they really made the offensive line a priority, and that's why they traded up and they gave up a first-round pick for next year to get Travis Hunter. So the upside is there with Trevor because of the weapons around him and because the Jags, there's a good chance that they might not win a lot of games, but they could score some points, and he could be a great fantasy option. So I think he's properly rated. I think 18 is a really good number for Trevor Lawrence.
I'm going to say he's slightly undervalued. I think he's going to be either QB 15, QB 16 in the end, and I could even still be underselling him. I mean, the upside is even greater. It's all contingent on, we know what Brian Thomas is going to bring. He's no fluke. You know, he's going to be no one-year sensation. He's not going to experience a sophomore slump, in my opinion. I do like the weapons and the arsenal around him. Travis Hunter is a highly explosive guy. I think they can utilize him in the slot, line him up occasionally outside, really pick on some of those mismatches that he can create with his separation skills. And then I know we talked about with Mia O'Brien earlier. She brought up Britton Strange. Like, he was awesome last year. Partially with Trevor Lawrence, partially with the backup there. Like, there's some good weapons in this arsenal. He was QB6 last season, deep ball completion percentage, number 2 in air yards per attempt. Where he struggled was in the red zone, number 26 in red zone completion percentage. If he can improve in that area, it could be 25 combined touchdowns. He gets that many, he's going to be probably a top 15 fantasy quarterback. So, again, I'm going to go slightly undervalued. What about Travis Etienne? Down year for him. RB33 at 134.09. Again, we're scoring for half point per reception, 0.5 PPR. Is he undervalued, overvalued, or properly valued at RB33?
I think he's actually a little overvalued here, Brad, just because, ETN, the production really wasn't there this past season. Tank Bigsby had some moments. Tootin is a person a lot of people are high on. And I think now because of the head coach and what we saw out of Liam Cohen last year when he was the OC in Tampa, right? How much success did they have kind of going running back by committee a little bit, right? Certainly Bucky Irving emerged as the guy, but they also had some moments where Sean Tucker really, really stood out. And I think using that philosophy and bringing some other guys in there, keep in mind Travis Hunter, all the different ways that you can use him. And I'm sure they could use him like in the backfield, right? Some of those ways that Shanahan used to use Deebo Samuel in the backfield. Like they don't trade up from 5 to 2 to just have Travis Hunter stand out at wide receiver the whole game. They're going to do different things to get him the ball, and all that's going to take away from Travis Etienne. So I think the combination of the new head coach, kind of the reinforcements that they made at running back, and now Travis Hunter in this offense, it's all going to contribute to, I think, a little bit of Etienne slipping a little bit. And even though he's running back 33 bad, I still think he's a little bit overvalued.
Yeah, he's way overvalued. I mean, he was terribly inefficient in some of the advanced categories last season. How bad was he? 46 in yak per attempt, 44 in total missed tackles forced, 25 in yards created per touch. He was not great. In fact, it was a bit rubbish-like. I think Tank Bigsby is far and away the better value. I mean, he was the second best running back in yak per attempt among running backs that qualified in that category. Mike Clay has got a projected to be RB37 Travis Etienne this season. I think that's about right. He's going to be lucky to be a top 40 running back with Tootin also in the roster. If he has an exclusive and eye-grabbing training camp, he could be involved in the mix right away. It's a full-blown RBBC. Avoid Travis Etienne. What about Travis Hunter? Wide receiver 55, 148.45. Seems a bit undervalued in my opinion, but what do you say? Overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued?
It's a tough one just because, you talk about like boom or bust with Travis Hunter. Like there are so many different ways that this can go. I would say undervalued just because of the boom potential. And again, all the different ways that they can use him the ball. I think he's such a talented receiver. My concern with Travis, and I personally am going to stay away from him, Brad, in all my fantasy leagues, just because the injury concern, I really worry about it. It's like with Ohtani, right, with the Angels, where we saw years of brilliance, and we saw the year where he was one of the top pitchers in baseball and one of the best hitters. And obviously, he had to get Tommy John surgery. He hasn't been able to pitch here in a while. Now, Travis is a rookie. He's still a young guy. And for this season, like, he could stay healthy and be great. I'm just not willing to invest in that. And maybe some people are, and they're willing to take the risk because of the potential. But I just think he's such a tough guy to handicap in fantasy because, again, we don't know how many snaps he's going to get on a week-to-week basis on offense. And every player in the NFL, right? You're always running the risk with injury, but especially with him and how many more snaps he's going to play than everybody else. And you saw it at Colorado that he was getting dinged up because of how much he was playing. I worry about that. So I think he's undervalued still just because of how incredible a player he is. And if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a really good year. But for me, I just think the injury concern and how much Jacksonville's going to ask out of him, I'm personally staying away from him on my fantasy teams.
Well, as CEO of Team Huevos, I ain't scared of one Travis Hunter. I think he's grossly undervalued. Quite frankly, at wide receiver 55, I think he's going to be easily a top 40 wide receiver in year number one. He's not going to be the number one guy. Brian Thomas is going to alleviate a lot of that pressure, which means he can maximize a lot of those mismatches, primarily coming to the slot, occasionally working outside. He's going to be, I think, incredible at times due to the deep ball accuracy of Trevor Lawrence and the separation skills that he possesses. He posted a 100-plus passer rating at Colorado last season on cross route, screens, hitches, and goes. So he's got enough branches in the route tree to do hellified damage across the board. Mike Clay's got him projected for 73 catches, 886 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's wide receiver 33. I think it's about where he winds up. So I'm buying. I am in on Travis Hunter as an undervalued, criminally undervalued player right now. Wide receiver 55, 148.45. All right, let's go to a little prop stop. Over or under Brian Thomas, 1,110.5 receiving yards in year numero dos, minus 115 either direction. What say you, PJ?
I mean, he had 1282 last year, Brad, so I think you got to go over. Again, a lot of people might look at the addition of Travis Hunter and say that's going to take away from his production. I actually think it's going to do the opposite, kind of what you were highlighting, right? He's still the number one guy, and now Hunter's going to put more stress on the defense that I think it's just going to open things up for Brian Thomas even more. So like you said, he's not a one-hit wonder. This kid's a stud. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. I think he proves that again this year. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he goes over this, Brad. I like the over.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well. He's going to flirt with 1,200 yards on the season. Last season obviously went over 1,200 yards. He was number 8 as well in total air yards, number 4 in total yak, and number 10 in route wins. He was phenomenal across the board. It's going to be more of the same as the true blue number 1 option for Trevor Lawrence in this offense. So again, Brian Thomas over 1,105.5 receiving yards at a minus 115. What about T-Law? Trevor Lawrence, 21.5 passing touchdowns, also minus 115, either over or under.
Yeah, this is a tough
Good
one.
number.
It is a good number, Brad. Personally, I'm staying away, but because he asked me the question, which one would I probably rather bet? I think I'd probably go under if I had to. Again, it's going to be right there. He's going to have about 19, or maybe he'll have like 23. It really is a good number. I think if I had to bet it, though, I probably would go under. Trevor is a guy that, going back all the way to high school, college, like he is a relatively healthy player. He pretty much is out there. So coming off the injury, we'll see how that goes. I think I'll still go under, though.
Ah, man, I'm kind of with you there, but screw it. I'll take the over. I say he gets 22 passing touchdowns somehow, some way, because Jacksonville's defense is craptastic. That will only amplify the amount of pass attempts that he has and the chances that he'll cash here. All right, last one. Team lean over under 7.5 wins, minus 120 in the over, plus 100 in the under. What say you?
Think we're going to differ here. I'm going under on the Jags, under 7.5 wins at plus 100. Talking about with Mia, I think that travel, playing the AFC West, NFC West, that's going to wear on them a little bit. Everybody's hyping up the Jags because of the Travis Hunter move, new head coach, new GM. I'm not buying it, Brad. I think this is a 6-11 football team. I'll go under.
I think they're winning 8 exactly. Give me the over at minus 120. All right, we got to take a little siesta here on BetMGM tonight. When we come back, we're going to review our cards this evening. Stay tuned. This is BetMGM tonight on the BetMGM Network.
Don't go anywhere. You're listening to BetMGM Tonight on the BetMGM Network.